Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I feel like I'm having deja vu making this video. But good news, the engine block is back again. Different block this time. The WAP block is done. Got all my stuff back. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how all of that stuff turned out, and then we're gonna start building this thing together like we did on the last one. So got the WAP block right here, fresh from the machine shop. Shacklets out of Nashville, Tennessee did a bang up job on this thing. So a couple things I had done to it. I had the surface decked. I had the cylinders bored out 10 over to a 3.562 bore, honed with a torque plate, and about 3.5 thousandths of piston to wall clearance with the new diamond pistons in here. And also had them clean the block. But as you can see down in here, the cross hatching down in the cylinders is really nice. There's a couple of little like marks right here from where the rings were file fitted. But other than that, these things are perfect. Should make for a good surface for the rings to seat to. So that's really about it for the block. Not a whole lot was done. The main bores down here with the ARP main studs were checked, and they did not need to be align honed. It was actually on the loose end of the spec, so those are good. And as you can see, I got a bearing in here already because I was checking my oil clearance on my main bearings, which is actually too loose. I had 2,007 of oil clearance, which is too much for a Texan, so I've got to order some thousandths tighter bearings to put in here. So that's going to cut down on that's going to add to the amount of time it's going to take to get this thing done, but it's part of it. You got to take your time sometimes to do this stuff right. I've already assembled the rods onto the pistons. You guys have seen me do that a million times in other videos. But one thing I did do different this time is I had the machine shop file fit the rings. It's a tedious process, and my tool isn't the best tool in the world, and I just honestly didn't feel like doing it. So it cost me about 80 bucks to have them file fit. You know, that's a lot of money, but I would gladly pay someone $80 to file fit these things because it takes a few hours to do this right. They were all file fit to 26. So the ring gaps for the top and bottom ring were both set at 26 thousandths. So that's pretty loose for such a small bore, but it'll be safe when I'm running really high boost levels and temperatures and stuff in the cylinders. Same thing as usual. You guys have already seen the Diamond Mod 2K pistons. They've got these thick wrist pins in them, and I'm still running the same Molnar H-beam rods. That was the only thing that I could save from the last short block. But those are all intact and in good shape, so I'm thankful for that. So these things are all put together, oriented the right way, and all that good stuff. So moving on from those, got the crank over here. If you guys seen this crank before in the last video, this thing did not look the greatest. It had been sitting on a shelf at my buddy Alan. My buddy Alan was nice enough to send this crank to me. So, you know, it had been sitting on a shelf for a while. I had some rust on the journals and everything else, but the machine shop was able to clean it and polish the journals, and it turned out really nice. There's a mirror finish on all these journals, and it looks like extremely shiny over here where the crank was cut, and it's got a little bit of like a rainbow color to it. It looks a lot different from my other crank. The other Cobra crank I had like a brownish gold color to it, but this is more of like a silver kind of rainbow color to it, which looks pretty cool. But yeah, all the journals are turned out really nice, and we didn't have to cut it at Mike's standard on the mains and the rod journals, so it's good to go. But like I said, the main bearing clearance over here is too loose, so I have to order some more thousandths tighter main bearings before I can even start assembling this thing. So as soon as I get those in, I'll pick this video back up and we'll start assembling this thing. Hey, what's up everyone? So got the bearings in that I was waiting on, so now I'm gonna go ahead and get underway and start getting this engine built. So the first thing we're going to do is put the crank in the engine. So get the crank and drop it in there. That's right. Crank right here, the stock Cobra crank. And then the bearings are in here. I like the clearances that I measured with these bearings. So we're going to get some assembly lube put on here and then drop the crank in it. You ain't got to get crazy with this assembly lube. You just want to put a good uniform coat on the bearings and not make a huge mess with it. Alright guys, the crank's ready to go in, so I'm going to wrestle this thing in here. Alright, it's easy as that. You just have to be very careful with how you put it in there, and then I'll slide this thrust bearing in the number 5 right here. Always important to put assembly lube on all this stuff. So this thrust bearing, this is the upper thrust bearing. Slides back in here. You want to make sure these openings right here are facing the back of the engine. See it down in there? Then you just slide the crank back forward. Just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little more assembly lube on the face of the thrust bearing real quick. Or the thrust face of the crank. Lighting in here sucks. One thing I do want to show everyone, so one thing on these caps is usually they're numbered. You can see the number right here, number 1, and then they have the arrow faces the front of the engine. So number 4 goes right here. Yeah. Number 3. Number 2. And number 1. And then you got to seat them. Which I usually use like the wooden part of the handle of this rubber mallet right here and seat them. Fuzz on here.
Here.
Hands are so slippery I can barely turn and grip the crank. Alright, so the next part I'll get some of this ARP fastener assembly lubricant and put it on all the threads. Before I do that though, I like to put the washers on there after I clean my hands off. because they do break off a lot. You don't need a whole lot of this stuff. The more you put on these bolts, the more you're gonna have in your oil. So honestly, I've never, after building an engine with this stuff, I've never pulled the drain out and not gotten a little bit of this moly lube on the end of the plug. It's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're using this stuff. It gets all in the oil in the engine. Not bad though, it's not gonna hurt anything. So everything's torqued down, and then you can see how smooth this crankshaft spins. It spins super smooth. And it's even harder to turn because of the assembly lube. If there was regular oil on it, it would be even easier to turn. So it's a good sign. Next, we're gonna have to check the crankshaft in play, and then we'll be able to put the pistons and rods in. So I gotta get a dial indicator to do that. You can't complain in the video about not hearing us talk.
I'm gonna be in the back.
I can't hear you. Your music's too loud and the sound's not loud enough. Alright, so at first I couldn't get this thing to work, but I think it was just user error. So I want to show you guys how easy this thing is to use now. This is basically just like a tapered ring compressor. So you just hit it on the top of the piston. And the piston's right in just that quick. That's all there is to it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Special effects.
Hit a couple ugly nuggas on these rod bolts right here. They're good to go.
That's it?
Yep.
So you need
torque to yield. Ugly nuggas. No, I'm just kidding. That's the last one going in.
take a pound to it, baby.
Perfect. That easy. All right. Boom. Like the pressure of putting it on there?
The last one.
Oh God.
Some clickbait. Putting on the last piece.
The last piece.
And it went perfect. And everybody's like, God damn.
Dang it. It worked. Alright, watch out.
The bolts.
Yes, I've got them.
Yeah, you're not doing your job, man. Come on.
You notice that color that's in the cylinders right there?
See one
Sergio?
line
You
on
see how
that
they
one
look
here.
green?
Start with that one off.
I put some like coating stuff in there. It's called like quick seat for the rings.
Oh.
You can see where it turned the cylinder green, which means the cylinder's really clean, which is good. I step on your toe? I'm sorry.
Why are you using the big one? Because it's got the... Hey man, I think let's switch it so you can do the perfect amount of ugly duggers on all 8 of them.
Yeah.
Send it.
Just send it.
I'm gonna narrate
Yeah, even with
the
this.
entire engine.
Oh, did?
Yeah.
Alright, now let's flip it over and torque all the rod bolts.
Going.
Alright, so this is a rod bolt stretch gauge. So what it does is whenever you're torquing these type of bolts, you don't really have like a certain torque that you put them to. You have to check stretch. So Molnar calls for a 6/1000 of stretch on these bolts. So what I do is I measure the bolt with this gauge. I set it to 0. It's about 0, ain't it?
A little bit over. Yep.
Right there. Set that to 0. This is just how I do it. There's different techniques to doing it. Make sure they don't rotate. And I just go to like a predetermined torque that I know gets them close with this specific torque wrench. Other people will leave that gauge on there and turn them with a wrench. But what I do is I just hit it with a torque, and generally 85 to 90 foot-pounds with the high pressure assembly lube on these. We're getting them right at 6/1000 of stretch. That on there. There. Right at 6.
Focus.
Close. Alright. So you just do that for, alright, the short blocks together. looking pretty good. So rods are torqued, all that stuff's good. Main's torqued, everything's in there good. So now I'm put the oil pump on, a 3-valve pump, GT500 3-valve pump, Boundary oil pump gears. And these things are kind of a pain to put on sometimes. That. Gotta get my bolts now.
No.
Got the heads out. Got the surface of the heads all cleaned up, nice and clean. It's nice and shiny looking, ready to go. And then I cleaned the deck surface of the block over here, nice and clean. And then I've got the stock 0304 Cobra head gaskets on here. And here is the part number, which I've shown everyone a whole bunch. That's the part number right there if you guys are looking for these. There's a bug in there. Look at that. Where'd he go? He must have flew off. There's a bug in my piston. That would have been good. Anyways, we're going to get ready to sit the head down right here and get the head studs in it and get it torqued down. So here you want to record me putting the head on and missing the dials probably. So I always seem to do that.
Give me help, brother.
I think I can get it.
I'll hold on to it when you get it here.
Ready?
Yeah. Like that. Sits down on there. So I'll put the head studs in and get them torqued down. We'll be good to go. This is day 2. And just wanted to show you how clean and nice this head looks right here. Hit it with some carb cleaner and wiped it down. And then this is the last time we're gonna see the pistons in this thing, so give you guys a good look at that before we close this up. Deck surface is clean and dry. Gonna lay the head gasket on here, set the head down, and get this thing torqued down. And then on from there, we'll be able to put the oil pan, the pickup tube, not in that order, on, get the bottom end of the engine wrapped up. All right, cam's going in now. Got the head torqued down. Get these cams put in, get some semi-lube on them. I like these trick flow heads because they have these numbered caps on them. One through 6. They have these guides right here that are generally pretty easy to get on. And then TrickFlow has a specific torque sequence I gotta look up, and pretty much in out, I believe, and then a certain torque on these bolts. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice. Everything fits in there. Cam spins nice and smooth before I even got the bolts tightened down. It'll probably spin even smoother once those get tightened down. Alright guys, so me and my buddy here who don't know how to build engines are like guessing at where this stuff goes. And I missed a whole bunch of stuff, so I got all the timing components on, and I degreed the cams last time, so I promise you guys I'm bringing y'all a cam degree class, or video, but it's not going to be on this engine. I got another engine I'm going to be building in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to do the video on that one, because it just takes too much time. I'm trying to get this thing put together. So right now we're putting the lash adjusters in. It's got GT500 lash adjusters and followers, so I'm putting those in right now, and then after that I'm gonna be able to put the pickup tube and oil pan on. Oh yeah, people were asking me how I did this last time, so this is good to put this in the video. I got this little trick float spring compressor tool right here that I use to install these followers in here because these lash adjusters are already pumped up, so they don't have enough spring down to them for me to actually get the followers, or so these lash adjusters are too pumped up to get the followers under the cam on the base circle. So what I do is I get the base circle on the cam, I get my tool right here, I put it on the valve spring, I get my follower, and there's kind of like a certain technique to it. I get it back there on the valve spring, and then I press the valve down with this tool, and I pop the follower up onto the lash adjuster, and then let the tension up, and that's how you install the followers.
Which wall is it? The one in the corner? Oh, I see.
I should have put this on before I put the motor plates on.
Is it like that way? Yeah, that's what it is. I was putting on the wrong one.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, straight, yeah.
There you go. No.
Babe,
Hold on, wait. Sure.
what are we doing?
Oh, this crankshaft's got a pilot bearing in it, so I'm gonna use bread to get it out. I mean, it takes a little while, but it works.
Sorry. Look at his face. I done plain conversion, believe me. I used it.
Did you hear it go?
Yeah.
More bread.
Yep. Like I said, it ain't super fast, but it works. Done it 2 times.
What's your motor with bread?
Hey man, that's like what? You probably spend right there a couple pennies, not even a penny.
No,
Yeah, instead of rent, spending my gas and everything else, to go get the slide hammer to do it with.
Daddy, I should go.
He said, Daddy, that shit's for my peanut butter and jellies. What are you doing?
I should go, Daddy.
He's too scared, Daddy.
What are you scared of?
How you go, go?
I don't know if this is going there. Oh yeah.
Daddy,
I think it usually takes about a full piece, maybe a piece and a half. No, it don't. It's like a piece.
Hey, Daddy, be home. Yeah.
Here it comes.
Tim didn't believe me.
See, buddy.
Tim didn't believe me.
You'll
Why?
be here next time, man.
Who's
the first time you see
Daddy?
it.
Oh, I almost hit you, buddy. I'm sorry.
What's Daddy? Hey, Mom, who's that?
Bread.
What's that?
Say, I mean, you can use grease. You can use like Mobile 28. Mobile 28 will do it too. Any kind of like grease. But this is actually probably a little cleaner than grease. I can't believe you're using bread in a
Why you do
$5,000 engine.
Why
Take
you do bad? Why you do bad, Daddy?
Because the engine's hungry.
Cocky.
You're about to miss it, man.
Here, I'll tell you what, I'll use bread the whole time just so instead of pulling it out with my hands. Because it'll knock it all the way out.
Don't
Alright, Tim, here you go.
do.
locking it back in, but it'll come back out. Look at that.
Witchcraft.
It's out.
Red.
Bread.
Now you gotta get it out.
Yeah, that's
You
part.
mind blowing? Record his face.
Alright, let's go right there.
What are you doing right now, Andy?
We are connecting the flywheel to the, or the flex plate to the converter.
Good, good.
That washer's kind of a pain to get in there, Sergio. Yeah, see, it's kind of like, there's like a technique to it. Transmission slid onto the dials too easy.
What are we doing
Something
now?
had to go wrong. I'm putting the bell housing bolts in, but this one's taking forever. There it goes.
Sergio's down there just touching bolts.
Just so he can lay down. He's not doing any work down there.
Just lay it down.
Yeah, I'm too slow.
That's one of my little bolts that go in there.
Oh, from the little ratcheting.
This is so much fun. So much fun.
We all get paid hourly, right?
Yeah, we're technically getting paid right now. Good work, fellas.
I'm filling up my miles per gallon. That's what I'm doing. You alright, Sergio?
What about this one?
What?
This one right there, you can see it.
Oh, I see where it goes.
This one, I don't know where it goes, but this one.
The other side?
Blair will be on
It
the
uses
other
a
side.
bracket
Oh,
that has to get bolted to the block. That I should have done before we put it in there.
Looking through walls and
is
shit.
that ground go to the block?
With the other engine bolts.
Hey, Mom, I have wine. But wait,
Watch out, bud.
I love wine. I love wine, Mom.
Alright, here, back up.
Okay,
Are you recording?
I am.
I tell you, Jojo. You give me Coca-Cola with the trash.
White girl's second start of the season. Second first start.
Connor, come over here, baby.
Hey, Dad, you have good day?
You let the fuel pump stop power. Alright, here we go.
Alright.